get up, let me begin. This is TWSN. You ain't heard about us yet, well you better know now, because it's the place that it all goes down. Get up, let me begin. This is TWSN. You ain't heard about us yet, well you better know now, because it's the place that it all goes down.
Shout out Young Swish. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Sit Down Morning Show with Malik Wright, presented by the Right Way Sports Network, TWSN. I'm your host, Malik Wright, joined by my co-host, as always, 𝗕𝗓𝗦𝗢𝗪, Marissa on the 1 and 2s. A lot of stuff to get into, but before we do, make sure you guys do us a huge favor. If you haven't done so already, give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, turn on post notifications so you guys don't miss when we go live or when we upload content. We've got a lot to get into today. A jam-packed show, a lot of guests that are going to be joining us. Daniel, we're going to talk about that Eagles game.
Yep.
More importantly, we're going to talk about Spitgate.
Spitgate is crazy.
I'm going to call it Spitgate. We're going to talk about Spitgate, man. But I want to start this show off talking about the Buffalo Bills. I want to talk about the Buffalo Bills. The Buffalo Bills are taking on the Baltimore Ravens in Buffalo at home. And the expectations are extremely high for the Buffalo Bills this year. I think we all can agree to that. Everyone is wanting to see if this is going to be the year that the Buffalo Bills break through. 100%. And, you know, it wouldn't be a Buffalo Bills conversation if I didn't bring in my guy, Buffalo Bills beat reporter, Mookie Hawkins. How's it going, Mookie?
What's up, my guy? I got that subtle morning introduction. I got you.
Man. You listen, you had to get the introduction, man. We appreciate you for joining us on the show, man, you know. But you know how you and I talk about the Buffalo Bills, man. You know the conversations you and I have. I know how you view them, right? As you like to laud around and say, Josh Allen MVP, right?
Yeah,
he's MVP. An MVP this year.
That's right. That's right.
But with the expectations, right? With all the success that he's had, it comes even greater expectations. Listen, I don't think you need me to tell you Josh Allen's going into year 8, right? And if this isn't the year they break through, what does the conversation become now? Because he does have the MVP trophy, which shows you can uplift the team around you, which shows that Josh Allen has the talent to actually do it. But Mookie, what is it going to take for the Buffalo Bills to finally break through this year?
Well, it's going to take a number of things. It's really going to take a real collective effort. One is going to, it starts with the coaching. All right, let's just start there. It's going to have to take the coaching, in clutch situations to get this job done. And we know that's pretty much been this team's Achilles heel, especially when it comes to playing the Kansas City Chiefs. I mean, I'm still having post-traumatic stress over 4th and 5, 4th and 5, and I had to ask Josh, like, what did he learn, most importantly from that game? And, was more understanding tendencies. Like, they've played the Kansas City Chiefs long enough to understand what they like to do in certain situations, especially on 4th and 5 now, right? Mm-hmm. So, I mean, that's what they got to overcome. They got to fight fire with fire, and coaching is a key component to that, right? I mean, whenever in the AFC Championship game you could blitz your safety and your corner on 4th and 5, that's a lot of balls to do that. But that's a lot of trust in knowing that you understand what this Bills team is trying to do. So that's something that Coach Brady needs to, work on, more or less. If he get in that situation again with Spagnuolo like that, he knows what Spags like to do in those certain situations. So maybe, there's a counter, there's a setup, and, they can evolve there. Josh Allen, we all know, coming off an MVP season. I know it's a lot of haters out there talking about the numbers and he didn't deserve it. You should have gave it to Lamar Jackson. Or hell, since we are on the TW, network, might as well say Joe Burrow, right? Let's just throw Joe Burrow in there, right? For the sake of argument. But, he was the MVP and he did more with less last year. That's what made him more valuable. It wasn't about the numbers. It's that Josh Allen did more with less. If you take Josh Allen away from that team, I don't think they win 1 or 2 games, if at best, if you take Josh Allen away from that roster last year, particularly. So, so the numbers really didn't matter. It was that Josh Allen did more with less. Now, how does Josh Allen really evolves? Going into his 8th year, coming off an MVP year, it's a lot of pressure right now that's mounting up for those guys to get to the Super Bowl. I mean, if it's not now, when? And Josh Allen is going into his 8th year, so everybody written him off, saying that the window was closed last year due to the turnover on the roster. Again, Josh Allen did more with less, so now he has more of a better roster than he had last season, off an MVP season, coming off an AFC Championship game. And they got some great pieces now. They had a real good draft class, so that's going to help things, especially defensively. You replace Von Miller with Joey Bosa, so I think that's going to kind of bolster things, especially in the run game, because Joey Bosa is definitely going to support the run more than what Von Miller was bringing to the table there. So it comes with a lot of things, the coaching and man, just the entire offense and defense clicking at the right time, because when it's a Super Bowl run, everything just seems to click at the right time. Yeah. So the Bills got to take it day by day, week by week, and when playoffs come, hit their stride.
For sure. And you said something key, right? If not now, then when? And that's kind of my question, right? I mean, when you look at the roster, you got some guys, right? You added some talent, whether it's, at the wide receiver position. Apparently this is Keon Coleman's breakout season with everything that Josh Allen's talking about. My question to you, Mook, is what happens if they don't get it done, or how do they get it done? Because like you talked about, you got to go through Mahomes, or you got to go through Lamar, or you got to go through Burrow. How do they get it done? And if not, what changes? Because Allen's under a lengthy contract. McDermott seems like he's locked in, but is there a pathway where they get rid of McDermott? What's your thoughts on how they get it done? And if not, what happens?
Something has to change. I mean, if in the event that they don't reach their ultimate goal, it's Super Bowl or bust. Like, they can't, like, I don't know. Certain things get kind of hot and steamy, when you keep repeating yourself and you're not reaching the ultimate goal. So it's a Super Bowl or bust. I mean, they have to at least make it to the Super Bowl. I mean, Josh Allen has been to 2 AFC championships in his career. When is he going to get over that hump? And, it really boils down to, again, like I just talked about, the coaching, the getting the stops, getting the necessary stops. And that's kind of been like the Achilles heel of this Buffalo Bills team on the defensive side. Offensively, Josh Allen is held up pretty much to his end of the bargain, averaging 30 points per contest. It's just that when the game is on the line, it's just that the execution, in certain situations, the tush push situation. Like, if you're going to do a tush push like that on 4th and 1, you have to execute that. That's why Philly is so good at it, because they don't shortchange that formation. They don't play around with that play. They go out there and get the higher yard or 2 if need be. So, the execution down the stretch, and then their inabilities to get teams off the field on 3rd down really pretty much hurt them. I mean, for the way the Bills team go out and play Lamar Jackson, the most elusive quarterback in the NFL, but you can't get to Patrick Mahomes in the AFC Championship game, that poses a problem defensively. And the Bills, I think they addressed that in the offseason, going to get Joey Bosa. They adjusted in the draft, having a defensive draft. The first 5 picks.
Your boy Deion Walker, man.
Yeah, Deion Walker. We had to snatch Deion Walker up from you guys real quick. So, and he's been having a great preseason and training camp. So, you'd like to see, the good improvements that they did do on the defensive side. Hopefully that could, make some adjustments and they'll be able to get to the quarterback a little bit more, especially on 3rd downs this year.
Mookie, can we not do this? Can we not do this? What the hell is going on with you? Okay, because first and foremost, why are you being so practical? This isn't the Mookie Hawkins I'm used to talking to. The Mookie Hawkins I'm used to talking to is usually like the Buffalo Bills is going to do this and do that, and the Bengals and all this stuff. Like
we ain't got to that. We play the Bengals December 7th, man. So
we gonna handle that. We gonna handle that. And I already told you. But look, listen. The point I want to make real quick though, man, is you're seeing it finally. You're finally seeing the light. You're finally seeing the light, because the conversation you and I had a couple days ago, you were talking about the MVP that Josh Allen has. So I wanted to hold your feet to the fire a little bit here. You do know, with great, what they say, responsibility, with great power comes great expectations. Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen are in the same conversation for me. Okay. You guys are now MVPs. What that means is you are the top of the NFL. You're up there with the Mahomes. So what's expected of you is greatness. What's expected of you is to finally break through this year. And listen, man, I'm sorry. I am not giving Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen a pass this year. I'm not. The same expectation that other quarterbacks have, hint, hint, hint. I'm putting the same expectations on those guys, especially the Baltimore Ravens, which I'm going to get to because they have a loaded team. But I do agree with you. Everybody wrote off the Buffalo Bills. Everybody said the Buffalo Bills team is gutted. I still have some questions about that Buffalo Bills roster. I have some questions at your safety spot. I do. I have some questions about your safety spot. I have some questions about, the defensive line. Is it going to finally live up to what your standard is and what the expectation is for the Buffalo Bills? Mm-hmm. What is Joey Bosa going to bring to the Buffalo Bills? Let's get into the meat and the potatoes of things. Let's cut off all the other shit out.
Big Bear is going to make his presence known. All right.
Who? Big Bear?
Think about that. Yeah, Big Bear. Big Bear Bosa. All right. He's going to make his presence known. All right. He's not in playing with the Chargers in LA. All right. Mm-hmm. So, he's going to definitely make his presence felt. I mean, Greg Rousseau, he's looking right now like an NFL senior going into his 4th year. You got Ed Oliver, TJ Sanders, and Deion Walker, Daquan Jones. They rebolstered this defensive front. And, you got it. The game is won up front. I do have some concerns on the back end, but the game is won up front. And I think the Bills really addressed that this year. And that's going to be a key component, especially on 3rd down. Now, if they asses can't get to the quarterback with that lineup right there, mm-hmm. then they have to change up their scheme. They're going to have to, start sending some blitz packages, and being a little bit more aggressive to get the quarterback, on the ground and get the offense off the field on 3rd down. If that don't happen, then, we're going to keep getting the same result. And I don't think Bills Mafia is in the business of getting the same results with, a quarterback like Josh Allen.
Daniel, and feel free to butt in at any point in time, but I want to address some spots on the Bills roster. Before I dig deep here, I do want to give a shout out. I did like that you guys went out there and you drafted TJ Sanders. TJ Sanders is a guy that even Bengals Nation was interested in. A lot of people were interested in. I think his upside is going to be extremely, extremely high, man. And I think that you guys got a fantastic player with that. But you can't look at this cornerback room and tell me that you feel good about it, right? Tre'Davious White. We're not talking about Tre'Davious White from 6 years ago, mm-hmm. right? The Tre'Davious White out there as one of your starting corners. I'm just trying to figure out, man. I understand Josh Allen's coming off of the MVP season. I understand all the expectations of the offenses to be humming. Josh Allen is dangerous with the ball in his hands, but you can't tell me when you look at this Buffalo Bills roster, you look at it and you think it's complete and it's up there with some of the upper team, other teams in the AFC. There's no way you could tell me that, right?
Well, Cincinnati got some flaws too, so let's not.
I'm not talking about Cincinnati. I'm not talking about Cincinnati right now. We're gonna listen. There's a time and place for that.
I get it, but stop hating on Trey White, man. Stop trading on the savvy vet and Trey White.
Stop.
Listen, I tell you, this Bills draft class is solid. It's solid. Yeah, Mad Max is not going to play. Definitely going to miss Mad Max Harrison. I mean, as advertised, that 4.28 speed, you definitely see it in practice. You see it on the field, whether it's man, whether it's on. They're going to miss that for the first 4 weeks. But Dorian Strong, the other rookie that they drafted in the 5th round from out of Virginia Tech, is no slouch, all right? 6'1", 195 pounds, physical, run 4.4. He can run with some of the best of them, and he's a very physical guy. So if we get good balance as far as rushing coverage, they definitely could hold things down. I mean, let's make no mistake about it. This Bills defense was top in the league in turnovers, right? So make no mistake about it. The defense isn't that bad. It's just that when playoff time comes, they pretty much get exposed on third down a lot. But during the course of the season, they are, they're in the middle of the pack with anybody, especially when it comes to certain situations, they're best around. But, the secondary definitely is an issue with me. They did more or less on a safety side than cornerback. You got Benford on the other side, who's pretty much one of the top 10 corners in the NFL. So you can have a Dorian Strong. You got Jamarcus Ingram over there.
Under whose accord? Like who? What do you mean?
Under whose accord?
What under Mookie Hawkins accord? What are you talking about, guy? Are we just
giving you the scoop? People, you're
giving me the scoop. Are you predicting what he's going to do this year, or are you trying to tell me that's what he is right now?
I want to tell you about the guys that people don't know about. Right, this is insider stuff, right? Okay. So let me introduce you to the guys who's going to be out there on Sunday. All right, because you got a little hater bone in your body this morning. All right, so we're gonna, I'm going to inform you on who's those dogs that's going to be out there. All right, I know, we talk about Cincinnati secondary too. All right, we got Jamarcus Ingram, and we got Dorian Strong is going to fit the bill alongside with Christian Benford if Tre'Davious White can't go. He's dealing with a groin injury right now. All right. So he may not suit up, but I think the Bills got, some suitable corners that can hold things down until those guys get back. My biggest concern is the safety with Taylor Rapp, Cole Bishop coming into his second year. They just brought Jordan Poyer back to pretty much mentor Cole Bishop. So, they got Sam Franklin, another journeyman from Carolina. I like his measurable 6'3", 210. He can run the alley pretty well. So they're going to have to do a committee of things on that secondary, especially against Baltimore this Sunday night. But they'll be up for the challenge, though.
Now, Daniel, I don't know if there's anything you want to add, but there's a couple questions more that I have for Muki. I mean, we're good friends. This stuff aside, right? I really want to get down to the meat and potatoes, man, really quickly for you. When Mookie Hawkins looks into his crystal ball and he's looking at the Buffalo Bills upcoming season, you guys have the Ravens to start the season, then you have Jets, then you have Dolphins, you have two divisional games back to back. You look into your crystal ball. What is your realistic expectation? Give me your prediction for what the Buffalo Bills do this season, Mookie.
Well, I think the Bills do what they did last year. I don't think it's hard for them to duplicate what they did last year. I do believe excuse me, we're glitching right now. I believe a 13-14 win season for this Bills team. The thing about it is they need to get a number one seed. That's the only thing that the Bills really haven't accomplished when they get that is a number one seed. They were on the cusp of that, but Cincinnati came down with, a storm and took the Bills to the shed at home, right? So that's still a bad taste they got in their mouth 3 years from now. So number one seed, playing one game at a time, getting that number one seed and, having the Cincinnatis and the Kansas Cities come to Buffalo, with the confidence of knowing that they got that number one seed. I think that is a big deal. The Bills did not lose a game at home last year. So, we're going to see what Baltimore is going to bring to the table Sunday night. They're going to be amped up, ready to go because the Bills ended their season last year. So it's going to be, it's going to be playoff atmosphere on Sunday night. But again, they're going to run the AFC East. They're going to dominate that. And all their tough games against the big time opponents is at the crib. All right. Cincinnati at home, Philly at home, Baltimore at home, you name it, those games are at home. So I think things are kind of like in the Bills' favor this year. So that's why I'd really say it's Super Bowl or bust for this team because they're favorite to, right now, before the season started at one point, they were favored in every single game on their schedule until basically the injury report came out. So they were the only team in the NFL that was favored in every single game. So, it's Super Bowl or bust for this team with the pieces that they have. Josh Allen, you got James Cook, who's, again, one of the top 10 running backs. I think that he should get a little bit more shoulder to load a little bit, take the pressure off of Josh there. Keon Coleman's going to have a breakout year. You got Josh Palmer that can beat your guys one-on-one if they want to play press man a lot. And I think that it's a good chance that they can get there. It's a good chance that they can get the #1 seed and take care of business.
So the one conversation I want to have real quick, and this is something, Mook, I need to know, is Josh Allen clutch? Like, that's the conversation.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at it, bro, he's 0-4 against the Chiefs in the playoffs. That's a real conversation. I understand, you know, the Sean McDermott conversation.
Isn't it more are the Bills clutch?
Yeah.
Because I think Josh Allen has gone toe to toe with Patrick Mahomes
I agree.
in the playoffs. Listen, I know it was a while ago, but I don't want to forget that the play calling down the stretch was so horrid that last drive, which ended the result. So Josh Allen, there's a reason why he's MVP. He is clutch. That dude can execute a 2-minute drive, no timeouts with the best of them. However, the team shits the bed in the playoffs when it matters most. Unfortunately, this is not the NBA. Unfortunately, you need everybody around you to elevate this team. Josh can't do it by himself, but I had a real issue with the play calling down the stretch. I had a real issue with that last drive. But Mookie, sorry, Dan, I didn't mean to steal your
No,
thunder
you're
there,
good.
but I think that your coach is the guy that needs a bigger light put on him. Mookie, you have a little bit of a theory too. Hear me out. You guys screwed up with Brian Daboll, letting him walk out the door. I thought that him and Josh had some really good chemistry. However, it's okay. It took a little bit, but you were able to get it corrected by hiring Joe Brady, a guy that was cast off, a guy that people tried to say wasn't cut out. He was the scapegoat in Carolina with Matt Rule as the head coach. And now he's reviving himself with the Buffalo Bills. For me, the NFL is trending towards a more offensive-friendly style. I'm not trying to be that guy, but I hope the Buffalo Bills organization learns from what's going to happen with the Detroit Lions this year. Sometimes you get a coach, a can't-miss coach that just has chemistry with a quarterback, and you want to build upon that. The league is trending more towards offense. It's just a fact. If Joe Brady and the Buffalo Bills have another breakout year offensively, there's no way that I'm letting Joe Brady walk out of Buffalo for a head coaching job and having Josh Allen restart all over again. If it was up to me, if the Buffalo Bills fall short this year, I'm seriously looking at a coaching change. All respect to Coach McDermott, all respect to him. But I think the real conversation here is the hot seat is not on Josh Allen. Josh Allen was just given a new contract. The Buffalo Bills said, hey, we believe in you. We know that you're the guy, you're the MVP, but if you can't get the job done this year, are you really going to recycle out another offensive coordinator who's probably going to go on and become a head coach somewhere and keep doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result? Sometimes, just sometimes, replacing the head man with a guy that has real chemistry with our quarterback, the most important position in the NFL, but also in sports, might just be the ingredients that the Buffalo Bills need. But I think the Buffalo Bills have had too much turnover on the offensive side of the coaching staff during Josh Allen's tenure. And I think that's something that you look at around the league. Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow have benefited from. They've had continuity for the most part from the offensive coordinator position. And I'd like to see that same thing for Josh Allen. But what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, you spot on with that. I mean, basically, if Daboll don't leave, let's say if Daboll had one more year before going to New York, I think the Bills do reach to. I do believe that the Bills would have gotten to a Super Bowl. One more year under Daboll, they would have gotten to a Super Bowl. They would have faced Cincinnati, but I think they would have had the tools to beat them. And like you mentioned before, it's not Josh Allen in the clutch, it's the play calling in the clutch, definitely. I mean, when you look at that whole drive, James Cook wasn't even on the field. They gave Ty Johnson a sweep, loses 3 yards, 2nd and 13. Okay, Josh got to pick a play, go get the first down. Now let's fast forward. 3rd and 10, you do a stand-up to Amari Cooper, who has basically been dealing with a wrist injury. So on 3rd and 10 for your season, you throw a stand-up to Amari Cooper, that's basically taking the ball out of Josh Allen's hand right there on 3rd and 10, just doing a quick game. You know, you should be going down the field with the football. He gets 5 yards, make it 4th and 5, and then again, my post-traumatic syndrome, it kicks in. You know, so, you know, it's like a team should not be able to know what you're going to do in the clutch to do a play like that on 4th and 5. 4th and 5, it's a passing situation. How I'm blitzing my safety in my corner in a passing situation for my season. That's ultimate confidence to understanding your opponent and knowing what they're going to do in that situation. And that's just the experience Spags has over Joe Brady. And that right there is what needs to be more clutch when it comes to this Buffalo Bills as an offense, as a defense. You know, the play calling in the clutch has to be better because the players are getting the necessary stops. Even the defense got the necessary stop when needed, because it was a back and forth game, right? But they got that stop, and guess what? Offensively was a horrible, horrible series that led to the 4th and 1 debacle, right? It shouldn't even came to that. It shouldn't even came to that. You know, James Cook is probably, other than Josh Allen, the best. Matter of fact, James Cook was the best player on the field that day. For him not to be on the field when the game was on the line, super diabolical. James Cook had 13 carries, he had 85 yards. That's damn near 7 yards a carry, 3 catches for 50 yards. And I don't care what you say, couldn't nobody do what James Cook did on 4th and goal when the ball was on the 3, when he had to elude 3 tacklers and stretch over the pylon for them to get the score. That was 2.5 minutes to go in the 3rd quarter. He never touched the ball at the rest of the game after that. So that cannot never happen. You know, in a must-win situation when your star players is on the sideline. Keon Coleman on the sideline. You know, that cannot happen. So, you know, they got to get it right this year. Super Bowl or bust, and I mean, you can't keep moving everybody. You know, something else going to have to move. So hopefully, you know, they'll get the job done. You know, we're going to get into that situation because I know you're trying to bait me into saying, you know, about this hot seat stuff. It's only
I'm just being honest. It's an honest conversation. Listen, on this show. Listen, it might be uncomfortable, but on the show, Mook, you know us. We talk real, man. And it was just something that was
we sit down. We talk, but it's gonna be tough. Like, okay, how do you get rid of a guy that's one of the top winningest coaches, and it is the top winningest coach in the past 6 years in the NFL?
The fact that you ain't do nothing in the playoffs. And I think it's the collapses. I mean, we've seen it time and time again in sports where coaches have just run their course. And
why did the Philadelphia Eagles move off of Andy Reid?
Yeah. I kind of feel the same way. Like
the Giants won. The Giants won 2 Super Bowls with Tom Coughlin, and they had a short fuse. Bill Belichick won how many rings? 6 rings? 6 rings? 6 rings with the New England Patriots, and he's out. He was out. Like
Doug Peterson.
Like he was 2 years removed from a Super Bowl win. It's just the NFL. The expectations are high.
Stints too. It was their second stints in different clubs. I mean, this is McDermott's first stint. So I get your analogy with that with Andy Reid, because Andy Reid was one of the hot young up and coming coaches. Couldn't get over that hump. Got fired. He got a head coaching gig, and he never let it go. You know, so you know, I don't want Coach McDermott to go that route. I would like for him to get it in his first term, but you know, seats do get hot. You know, those situations.
There are a couple of coaches in the league that are facing this situation potentially. I think Mike Tomlin is. I think not only Mike Tomlin is, but I also believe John Harbaugh is. You've got to win. You've got to win. And there's something you got to be able to show something for it. Because guess what? The league is starting to catch up. The league is starting to pass some of these guys by. And before you know it, these guys are 10, 12 years in the league. And you look back and you say, what the hell? Right? That's why the leash is so short. I believe Coach McDermott, I believe Zach Taylor, I believe not Andy Reid, Mike Tomlin, Harbaugh. I believe all these guys were given a respectable amount of time to get it right. And it just, for whatever reason, recently, at least Harbaugh and Tomlin have rings, but at least recently it hasn't necessarily panned into success. And at some point, you have to have the conversation because we all know it's hard to find elite quarterbacks, right? Right? It's the most sought after position. Everybody's searching for that for their team. So it's much easier to replace a coach, if you will, versus replacing that franchise quarterback and starting all over again and doing the same song and dance. That's just my thoughts.
Yeah, you're right about that. But everybody always say, well, the Bills haven't beat Mahomes in the playoffs. But guess what? Lamar Jackson have not beaten the Buffalo Bills in the playoffs. All right. So have that same energy when y'all be talking.
Oh, I do.
That study. Everybody please have that same energy. Because I don't hear people talking about Lamar in that same breath or how they talk about Josh Allen, when it comes to the Kansas City Chiefs. Nobody says that. I don't hear people saying that. Lamar Jackson cannot beat the Buffalo Bills in the playoffs. All right.
Well, Mookie, last thing I'll say, brother, is if you ever tune on to watch this show, I am super hard on Burrow, on Mahomes, on Jackson. I call it like I see it. My man. And, yesterday's show was me holding Lamar Jackson's feet to the fire. It really was. But obviously with the Buffalo Bills talk, I had to talk it through with you, my man. But listen, I want to thank you so much for taking your time, man, to join us on the Sit Down Morning Show, brother. You're the first guest of the season, man. You're the first guest of the season. So shout out Muki, man. I know you'll be there on Sunday night in the booth and in the press box, the whole 9 yards. But man, let the people know where to follow you at.
You can follow me at WUFO Sports. You can also catch me at Bills Mafia, the Fan Base Network, all day, every day. Or you can catch me on the radio at Power 96.5 right here in Buffalo.
Awesome, my man. Thank you so much, Mookie. We appreciate you, brother. Good luck to your Buffalo Bills on Sunday.
All right, my G.
I'll see you. That was Mookie Hawkins, Buffalo Bills beat reporter. We greatly appreciate him for being so gracious with his time to talk it all through and talk Buffalo Bills and the expectations for this season. It's always fun talking with Mookie, man. We get together once a year at the NFL Combine, and it's always good to kind of just talk things through. I think this will be the one year where we actually see him. That's not just in Indy. But want to keep the conversation rolling. Listen, the Browns came out and had a lot to say yesterday. Grant Delpit had a lot to say. Denzel Ward had a lot to say. We got to talk about it. Man. They were calling out the Bengals, the whole 9 yards. And the one thing that I kind of took away from it was, I guess the Browns want all the smoke. The Browns told the Bengals basically get your popcorn ready because, as Denzel Ward said, I want you to throw it my way. I want the expectation. So let's talk it through. Without further ado, I want to bring in TWSN journalist, analyst, Bill Sparks. How's it going, Bill?
Good, Malik. Thanks for having me on this Friday to talk the Battle of Ohio and to kick it off. Yes, Cleveland wants all the smoke and then some.
Yeah. Well, I don't think it takes a rocket science to look at, the wall background behind you to know exactly what side you're taking on this. But listen, man, I think it's a little bit interesting that the Browns, it's weird. It's not something you usually hear. Denzel Ward, as Jamar Chase says, Denzel Ward doesn't even talk. So for him to kind of go out there and, say this or say that, it was kind of interesting to me. It was like, okay, maybe Jamar got under his skin. Jamar being a Triple Crown got under his skin, and maybe they saw the high-powered Bengals offense. To me, I look at it as they respect this Bengals offense. They see it genuinely as a threat. But, Bill, I want to get your thoughts on the trash talk. I also want to get your thoughts, your expectations on Bengals versus Browns taking place on Sunday.
Yeah, so with the trash talk aspect, you talked about it. Denzel Ward is not a guy that's going to trash talk on the field. He is going to do his trash talk in the lead up, but he's going to let us do the talking. And you look at last year's game, targeted 8 times in the 2 games last year, allowed 5 catches for 61 yards for Denzel Ward. If we get a week 7 performance where you had 1 target for 2 yards, that's going to show what Denzel Ward is. We get the week 16 performance, then it's a problem. If there's 2 guys on this Browns defense that have been afforded the ability to trash talk, it's Denzel Ward and it's Myles Garrett. Those 2 guys, year in, year out, are consistent stars on this defense. You look at Myles Garrett over the last 8 games against Cincinnati, 10 sacks. Now, I know there's obviously some concern about his hip injury. He didn't practice yesterday. There's no concern at all from Cleveland media and from ESPN. Cameron Wolf reporting that there's no concern. He'll be ready to go. This is a guy that plays through the injuries. I think the big thing, too, that we have to talk about is Cincinnati's got a bit of a weakness on that offensive line, namely along the interior. You're starting a rookie in Dylan Fairchild, and then you also have Lucas Patrick on the other side. Reisner's probably going to see some time. I would have preferred to see Reisner. I think he's the better pass protector. But when you look at the Browns' biggest strength, it's along that defensive line. You have Myles Garrett, adding Mason Graham as the 5th overall selection, Malik Collins as well. Those three guys combined, Myles Garrett, 17% pressure rate. Malik Collins, 10.3% pressure rate. Mason Graham last year at Michigan, 10% pressure rate. That's the one thing they know how to do is get pressure up the middle, and nothing will affect Joe Burrow more than pushing pressure up the middle.
For sure. And, Bill, obviously this is for everybody watching one of our, finest at TWSN. I mean, looking at this depth chart to give fans a little more insight, the offensive line, I feel like for the Browns is one of the biggest X factors. And when we talk about this game, what is the Browns' pathway to winning this game, right? Because this is a rivalry game. This is a game that the Bengals have had trouble with in the past. What is the Browns' pathway to victory? And do you see it, being a realistic pathway for week 1?
Yeah, so the biggest pathway is going to be taking advantage of the middle part of that defense. For the Bengals, you're looking at Demetrius Knight and Logan Wilson starting at linebacker, going up against two of the better athletic tight ends in David Njoku and Harold Fannin Jr. You look at Njoku, 64 catches for 505 yards in 11 games last season, with 3 different quarterbacks in Jameis Winston, Deshaun Watson, and DTR. You look at Harold Fannin when he was at Bowling Green last year, 100 catches, 1,300 yards, 9 touchdowns. The big thing, though, and this is Kevin Stefanski's offense, a lot of that damage was either done behind the line of scrimmage or in the short and intermediate range. One of the biggest things that I called out, obviously also being a draft analyst as well for Demetrius Knight, was his issue with short area quickness, and his lateral twitch was average at best. He's going to struggle to keep up with an athletic guy like David Njoku. He's also going to struggle against a Browns defense that also added Dylan Sampson at running back, who is a speedster at 4.4 speed and likes to push the ball outside. I think for the pathway for success for Cleveland is to run the ball early, take advantage of that second level defense, also take advantage of the fact that all 5 starters along the offensive line are healthy and should be good to go for Sunday. Run the ball, use Joe Flacco in the play action game in the intermediate parts of the field, and limit the turnovers. Joe Flacco's a guy, he's thrown for 300 plus yards in 6 straight games. This is not the Baltimore Ravens Joe Flacco, but this also isn't DTR. This also isn't Jameis Winston, who's going to throw for 500 yards and 5 interceptions. So I think there is a pathway if the Browns limit the turnovers. They play a defensive style of football game. And the big thing, too, you also have to factor it in is the Bengals have a concern starting slow in week 1. 1 win in the last 5 week 1s. And in that 1 win, they scored more than 25 points. The other 4 losses, they scored less than 25.
Yeah. And man, I mean, you're saying it. And I think, going back to the trash talking part, I think is extremely valuable because, man, I think that this Bengals team is ready. And I respect, obviously, what Denzel Ward and Grant Delpit are doing. But, man, I think that this fires up the Bengals even more, to be honest with you. I think you got guys like Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins. I think these guys are ready to go. And the Browns have always had the Bengals number in the sense of, hey, 2 outside corners that can play with the Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. But my X factor, to be honest, I think the middle of the field, the Mike Gesicki's of the world, the Chase Brown, the Noah Fant, I think that's where the Bengals are really going to thrive. And I think it's going to put a lot of pressure on, the Browns rookie linebacker, Carson Schwetzinger and the other linebackers. But like I said, I'm excited to see this game. And I think that it's going to be a close game because of the divisional matchup. And like you said, Joe Flacco does have a history with the Browns, and he seems like he's comfortable in the system with the Browns. But
I'll say this, Bill, you laid out a beautiful game plan for the Buffalo Bills to beat the Cincinnati Bengals. And if only Bill Sparks had some type of magic where it could be executed as perfectly just like that, then maybe the Browns will be golden. I see it a little bit different though, Bill. I think that you did a great job talking about the Bengals' weaknesses, but in talking about the Bengals' weaknesses, we got to talk about the Browns' weaknesses. I don't think the Browns have answers beyond Ja'Marr Chase, T. Higgins. That's one thing I'll say. I think that there's a real exploiting that could take place. To what Daniel said, Mike Gesicki and Noah Fant are two guys that I think can feast in this game. I think that their touchdown prop being what it is egregious, to be completely honest with you, because I think that Joe Burrow loves to target the tight end position if it's there. I think there's a little bit of a gap. I know Ja'Marr shows a lot of respect to Denzel Ward quite often, and he talks about how Denzel Ward is the toughest matchup in the league for him. However, that all being said, Ja'Marr still is the best wide receiver in the National Football League for a great deal. There wasn't a cornerback that really was able to stop him last year. And I think what this allows the Bengals to do is allow more one-on-one opportunities for Ja'Marr Chase. Now, granted, that might come later in the game as you have to start to respect the middle of the field, guys like Mike Gesicki, guys like Noah Fant. That time will come, but I will take T. Higgins 50-50 ball versus anyone. I will take Ja'Marr Chase one-on-one with anyone. No doubt it's going to be a good matchup, but I think the worst thing that could have happened was something that, and I think the reason why I'm even making mention of it is you don't hear Denzel Ward trash talk prior to games. I don't know what compelled him this year to trash talk Ja'Marr Chase and Joe Burrow of all people, but the last person that trash talked Joe Burrow going into a game, Joe Burrow put up 500 yards on that person's defense and got the guy fired at the end of the year. And that was Wink Martindale's defense. And it all started with Marlon Humphrey and Wink Martindale chirping. So I honestly think, hear me out, I think there are two things are going to be very, very interesting, Daniel and Bill. I think that the Bengals obviously have the issue with starting slow week one. The Bengals also have had the issue in the past, although they beat them the end of last year. They had the issue with starting slow and then starting slow against the Browns. What a better time. There's no better time to dispel all those narratives than right here now. I'm not going to be the one to bring up things and I'm not going to be the one to bring up things of the Super Bowl year where the Bengals made the run. But to your point, Bill, the Bengals are 1-5 in their last week one, couple of week one starts. And the year that they won a game in week one was the year that they made a run. So I'm not one again for theories or conspiracy theories. But the fact of the matter is, I think that this Bengals team, there's a reason why they changed the offseason program. There's a reason why they were locked and loaded. And I want to get to Sean Brennan's thing. He said if Gesicki turns into the guy Malik has said he'll be for 2 years, Bengals are truly scary. I've got news for you, Sean. Mike Gesicki turned into that guy last year, boasting 600 plus yards. I forgot how many touchdowns he actually had. He wasn't that guy in the beginning because he wasn't being utilized by the Bengals, but he wound up finishing the season with about 620 or something like that receiving yards. So he's already turned into that guy. It's the reason why he earned himself a 3-year extension. He's the first guy in the Burrow era that the Bengals actually extended because they realized, hey, we see the value in this guy. It's a mismatch there. And he is the Bengals' third receiver. So there's no hypotheticals. He is that guy. He's been that guy since the middle, maybe a little bit after week one. He's been utilizing this Bengals offense and be utilized in a big way. So I think Mike Gesicki is a guy that's going to have a lot of success against this Browns defense, against this Browns secondary. But again, Myles Garrett, Mason Graham, those are guys that are going to have to show up. I don't know what we're going to get out of Mason Graham. I'm expecting it to be something pretty good because everyone's talking about him as if he is the real deal, right? The expectation, we saw what he did at Michigan. If he's able to translate that to the NFL, then the Browns are going to have a defensive line to be reckoned with. That all being said, the one thing I love about the NFL, especially offensive line play, Bill, is it's still mono versus mono. You still got to lace them up. You still got to go helmet to helmet. You still got to win your matchups. So it's going to be exciting. So the same way Dylan Fairchild, albeit he's not a top 5 pick, but the same way Dylan Fairchild is a rookie, Mason Graham is a rookie. These guys have got a lot to prove, and they've got to show up. And I'm willing to bet I think that this Bengals team does show. But Bill, before I could let you get out of here, brother.
Yeah.
Give me your prediction.
So my prediction, I've got Browns 23-20 on a last-second field goal with 8 seconds left on the clock. And the reason I say that, and this is one final stat I'll leave you with.
Sure.
One-score games. Kevin Stefanski, 25-20. Zach Taylor, 21-33-1.
For sure.
When it's on the line, I'm going Stefanski.
Man, I like that. I like that. And you know what? If it was the Evan McPherson of last season, I probably would agree with you when we had a weird snapping situation and all that kind of stuff like that. But that year, I keep going back to it, man, when they were humming, when they were locked and loaded, they were winning the one-score games, man. They were winning the one-score games. I just can't – I don't believe in my heart that this Browns defense – I respect them, but I don't know if they can hold this Bengals team to under 20 points or even under 21 points. I don't know if I believe that they can do that. And I don't know if they can match them firepower-wise. I really believe Joe Flacco is going to give opportunities to this young secondary to get some interceptions. He loves to do it. The Bengals are familiar with his game. The entire FC North is familiar with his game. I think the Bengals scored 30 on the Browns. I said it. I think the Browns scored 30. I think the Bengals scored 30 and they win this game 30-17. Daniel, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm with you. I believe in Flacco, Judy, Cedric Tillman, and Njoku. I believe in them. I think they're going to put up more points than people expect, but I do think the Bengals are going to win this game. I agree with you. I have it 28-24. I think the Bengals end up winning this.
I think David Njoku is going to have a good game.
Yeah.
I still believe that. I think that the Bengals, until proven otherwise, cannot guard tight ends. And until they show me otherwise, I will continue to die on that hill. But Bill, this one. Okay.
I got one last question while we got him on here real quick. Shedeur Sanders, do you think Joe Flacco starts the entire season, or what do you think happens there? Just real quick, want to get your thoughts.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that. So over on TWSN.net, I actually dropped a full regular season prediction for the Cleveland Browns. I think Flacco goes all the way to week 7 versus Miami. We see Dylan Gabriel at that point. Then we see 6 games of Gabriel. And I think Shedeur Sanders is starting by week 14 just because the Browns have to evaluate what they have at the quarterback position, especially with 2 picks in the 2026 NFL draft in the first round.
Awesome. Bill, want to thank you so much for joining us. You can catch all of Bill Sparks' work over at TWSN.net. Bill, this will not be the last time that we have you on the show. I look forward to talking with you very, very soon, man. Football season's back, man. We're pretty excited. You can follow him on X, or I'm going to call it Twitter, man, at Sparks Scouting. He does some great work, fantastic work. But I appreciate you, my man.
I appreciate you guys. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Gotcha.
That was Bill Sparks of TWSN. We greatly appreciate him for joining us. If you guys could do us a huge favor while you're here, give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, turn on post notifications so you guys don't miss when we go live or when we upload content from the TWSN studios. Listen, it is not a Friday here at TWSN if it's not Fantasy Football Friday. So without further ado, Fantasy Football, one half of the law firm, O'Hara and Bradshaw. We gotta bring in Michael O'Hara. What's going on, Mike?
Gentlemen, good morning. How are we doing? It is a great day to be out here setting fantasy football lineups and Friday Night Football. I mean, it's just going to be fantastic.
Man, so Mike was supposed to be in studio with us. We did had a last minute pivot. He's going to be joining us live in studio next week on Fridays, and we're pretty excited about it because we get the real fantasy conversation happening in real time. So, we want to talk about some of our favorite starts and sits. Daniel, the floor is yours.
Awesome. All right, Mike. So I just kind of want to take this away. Last year, how we kind of did this, you gave us some of 3 of your favorite starts, 3 of your favorite sits. Let's start off with a quarterback if you've got one, and we'll go from there. If not, you go running back.
Yeah. I mean, I think quarterback, it's pretty cut and dry. I mean, for the most part, you drafted your guy to be your starter. And then some teams they went out and they drafted kind of 2 late round guys, and one of those guys that I think, and you play the matchups with 2 guys on your roster, but one of those guys I think that you should be giving the nod. Not my favorite real life quarterback. I've been pretty vocal about that, but fantasy wise, very, very exciting. I think Justin Fields is a week 1 fantasy starter. It's just it's too easy. You know what he's going to do. He's going to scramble as soon as there's going to be pressure. They're facing the Steelers this week. And we know what the Steelers defensive line does. I don't know if there's been any resolution on the Cam Hayward situation. I know it was reportedly a rest day yesterday when he missed practice, but he's still dealing with that contract dispute. But either way, they're going to have Watt on the field, and they're going to be generating pressure. I know the Jets have been working to build up their offensive line with first-round draft picks here in the last couple of years, but I still expect to see Justin Fields scrambling early and often. I mean, we saw in the preseason him rushing in one of those touchdowns. I mean, obviously you don't want to be leaning in too heavily into preseason performances, but I do think that's indicative of what we're going to see is just a whole bunch of rushing yards. And I mean, when 10 rushing yards counts the same as 25 passing yards in fantasy football, I mean, you get your points where you can. It doesn't matter if Fields goes 11 for 20 through the air on Sunday.
For sure. And as we're doing this, and we're going to get to some of the questions. So once again, if you have a fantasy football team, drop your question down below. Our guy, 𝗦𝗣𝗢𝗪, he said, with Rashee Rice, obviously out for the Chiefs, what's your thoughts on starting Xavier Worthy? And do you think Chase Brown is going to perform up to expectation this year?
Yeah, on Xavier Worthy, I think that's an easy start. With Rashee Rice out, especially last year, we saw what that was like, especially down the stretch. In the final 10 games of the season, including the playoffs, Xavier Worthy was this team's number one option. He led the team in targets in the final 10 games of the year. We saw him getting a mix of those kind of design touches and downfield looks. With the Chargers and defensive coordinator Jesse Minter rolling over with Harbaugh for a second year, they ran a ton of too high looks last year to try and take away big plays. I expect them to do that again against the Chiefs tonight. So maybe he'll get a downfield look or two. I wouldn't be banking on an explosive play. Of course, it can happen at any moment with a guy like Worthy, but I think you'll still get the design looks and the short area of the field looks to maintain a solid floor, and then you're just hoping he can rip off one big explosive one. But this is the number one pass catcher in the Chiefs offense for a minimum of 6 weeks. And then Chase Brown, yeah, it's exactly what it is. I don't think you're going to see him getting, I don't know have the number in front of me, but it was upwards of 90% of the backfield touches last season with Zach Moss out. I don't think that's a realistic expectation, especially with 𝗦𝗡𝗎𝗪ine in the mix to take away some work on passing downs. But it's a volume driven and it's an offensive environment based play. Unless he gets hurt or he's just falls flat on his face, which I don't see happening. Yeah, I think he's going to be a weekly RB1.
Awesome. All right, let's go to one of your sits for the week. Who's the guy with the matchup that you are personally avoiding?
It's not necessarily a matchup and it's not necessarily a specific player, but I do just want to outline this kind of game environment. I'm avoiding all Houston Texans outside of Nico Collins. I just don't think it's a worthwhile start considering the matchup. I do think that the Rams could very well have one of the best pass rushes in the league this year. We saw the rookie tandem of Jared Verse and Braden Fisk last year. They're entering year two against a reworked Texans offensive line. I really do think that they can wreak havoc. They've got a rookie starting at left tackle. Do the Texans 𝗬𝗢𝗪𝗏, rookie left tackle, a couple of new pieces. Shaq Mason's no longer there, a new center. It could be they could struggle to find their rhythm, the Texans, pretty early on. And from the wide receivers and the running backs, we just really don't know what the rotation is going to look like. Christian Kirk's been missing practice with a hamstring injury. We expected him to be the wide receiver 2 there. And then if he's not playing, you want to bank on the rookie Jaden Higgins, but he could very realistically in his first NFL start be mixing in with a guy like Xavier Hutchinson. We don't know how Jalen Noel is going to factor in there. And then with the running backs, I mean, no one's really, unless you're in a really deep league or in a really tough spot, you're not planning on starting Woody Marks or Nick Chubb in week 1, but it's just another spot where we just don't know how they're going to be deployed, what the usage is going to look like. I think the Texans offense could just struggle to find its footing here in week 1.
For sure. So let's go. Give me one more of your starts and then we'll rapid fire these questions. But who's another guy that you are hammering in your lineup that when you come back on next week, we're talking about this guy having a monster performance?
Yeah. One guy I think is very, very exciting. And I was actually writing about this while you guys were speaking with Bill and Muki there. I think you've got to be jamming Josh Downs into your lineups this week. If you're starting 3 receivers in a flex, even if you're starting 2 receivers in a flex, I think he's worthy of that flex spot or that wide receiver 3 spot. It's a really good matchup, and Daniel Jones winning the quarterback battle is really, really good for Josh Downs. you guys are the NFL draft gurus, the true ball knowers. Maybe you guys can educate me on this individual, but Jason Marshall, is 5th round rookie, is slotted to be the slot corner for the Miami Dolphins in week 1. We all know the just general storyline of how bad this defense is expected to be, particularly the secondary with the injuries and the loss of Jalen Ramsey. So we'll see how this Jason Marshall character fares against Josh Downs in the slot in week 1.
I will
Go
say
ahead.
this. A few years ago, I was a big fan of Jason Marshall Jr. I'll put it this way. I think he'll be better than what people expect. However, I do think Josh Downs is a little bit too big of a matchup to start him off. But I do think he's going to be a very good corner. I really believe that.
Yeah, we'll see. I'll put my chips on Josh Downs in week 1. Just a consistent top tier route runner, a really strong targeter, and like I said, Daniel Jones coming in the mix. You don't have to get me started on Daniel Jones. Like, I just don't think this is the right move. I don't think that this is a significant upgrade whatsoever. I still think the Colts are going to falter with Jones under center, but the one thing that Daniel Jones does is he throws the ball close to the sticks, close to the line of scrimmage. He is not going to be pushing the ball downfield, and that's exactly where Josh Downs operates, is within 10 yards of the line of scrimmage. He's running out of the slot. He's running the short, shallow routes. We know that he can earn targets alongside the guys on this roster. Tyler Warren is in the mix now, but I'm still confident in his ability to get open, to draw those shallow looks. And I just think, especially in PPR leagues, he's going to rack up a bunch of receptions and just provide steady, valuable production out of the flex.
Awesome. We got 3 questions from some of our viewers here. So Joshua Seal said, in the flex spot, Courtland Sutton, Keenan Allen, who are you starting?
I think it's pretty easily Courtland Sutton. Keenan Allen, I think it's interesting. We don't really know what the wide receiver rotation is going to look like. You're going to expect, especially early in the season, for Keenan Allen to get a lot of those looks. Yeah. Just considering the other options are rookies, Theoharis. A lot of people like Keandre Lambert-Smith, but you should expect to see Keenan Allen on the field pretty regularly. But the best place for him to produce is out of the slot. And obviously, Ladd McConkey is going to be running a lot of those routes. But when he's in the slot, he's going to be lined up against Trent McDuffie, who is one of the best slot corners in the game. So I'm just not particularly bullish on Keenan Allen. I think he could provide some value early in the season. I don't think this is an ideal matchup, but Courtland Sutton, the bona fide target hound in Denver there, and they get a solid matchup this week. They get the Tennessee Titans. I just think based on the ceiling of the offense, the matchup, who we know Courtland Sutton is as a player, I think this is an easy call.
Awesome. Our guy, Sean Brennan, he said he's got 3 guys for 1 spot in a PPR league. Emeka Egbuka, Michael Pittman Jr., or Jackson Smith-Njigba. Who would you go with and why?
I think it's certainly down to between Smith-Njigba and Egbuka. I'm going with Smith-Njigba. I just really do think that, especially with DK Metcalf gone, what we saw last year, this is just the engine of the passing attack. Yeah. It's a solid matchup with the San Francisco 49ers. They've been known to have a formidable defense in recent years, in recent history, but they lost a lot of those guys this offseason to free agency, just having to clear up the finances to extend Brock Purdy. So it's a different 49ers defense that we're going to be seeing this year, and that's who Smith-Njigba gets in week 1. But this is going to be the guy in Seattle. I think you can really bank him for double-digit targets, and we've seen his ability to be a top-of-the-line fantasy asset.
Awesome. And the final question we had was from our guy G. Lou. He said, is Stephon Diggs being underrated in fantasy, and would you even consider starting him?
Yeah, this is one I really can't give you a definitive answer. You can't. Nobody can sit there and tell you, I know exactly how a guy is going to look coming back from injury. No one has the ability to do that. But I will tell you, I personally don't tend to take bets on 31-year-olds coming back from an ACL tear. I know it's remarkable that he is going to be on the field in week 1, and he was participating throughout training camp and throughout the preseason. That's pretty remarkable, especially given his age. I do like betting on the New England Patriots offense to take a step forward this year with Drake May under center, the addition to the offensive line and Will Campbell, Mike Vrabel coming in, Josh McDaniel back in the calling plays and running the offense. I do like betting on the Patriots offense as a whole. I personally, like I said, just coming off a severe injury at that age, we could very easily see this guy just be a shell of his former self. So I think it's not necessarily a wasted pick, but I wouldn't be planning on relying on him throughout the season. This week in particular, the matchup is solid. I don't think the Raiders are a particularly inspiring team, especially on the defensive ends. We'll see how all the changes that they made this offseason come to fruition, how they change the trajectory of this franchise. We'll see, but I think it's a solid matchup, but I wouldn't be planning on relying on Stefon Diggs this week or much throughout the season.
You know, I don't usually interject too much on these fantasy football conversations, but maybe I should start because everybody knows I'm the tight end whisperer, and all I'm going to say is I'm 2 for 2. I've been killing it with the tight ends and their production so far. So maybe I'll enter the chat again next Friday and have some things to say, not from a fantasy football perspective, but maybe it could impact fantasy football. I'm just going to tell you guys right now, I hope that your roster might get 𝗙 on your fantasy football roster. I really hope you are. I tried to tell everybody last year. Nobody listened to me. I think he'll finish as tight end 1 in the NFL this year. I really do. Wow. Trust me. I really believe he will. And the numbers last year were trending that way. So we'll see what happens. But Mike, thank you so much, man. We appreciate you guys. Well, not you guys, you for joining us. We're hoping to get Steve back here for Fantasy Football Fridays, my man. And you can catch all of Mike's work over at TWSN.net. But man, we appreciate you. We'll be talking to you soon, and we look forward to having you in studio next week.
See you guys soon. Have a good one, guys.
Yes, sir. Take care, man. That was Michael O'Hara. Always got us with the fantasy football content. But listen, man, it's time to discuss some of our first, before we even bring them in, I want to just run through a couple of things really quickly with you.
Yeah.
What did you think of the whole thing last night, man, with the Jalen Carter, Dak Prescott? You know, I was planning to talk more about it, but when you get the second angle, the video of Dak spitting first, and obviously the impact wasn't the same. But what were your thoughts? I obviously think ejection was definitely needed, but I don't know. I look at it a little bit differently now because you got the antagonist, so to speak, in this situation. Because definitely, even though Dak, the result wasn't the exact same, the intent felt like it was there.
Yeah, my take on this, Malik, is he's still in the wrong, Jalen Carter, but it's not to where it was before. My thought process before was, man, this is a poor look on him. Like, just not a veteran move, not a move that you make from a defending champion. Yeah. But Dak Prescott is being a competitor. He's egging him on. So I thought it was definitely needed as far as the ejection. I mean, you don't just go on spitting on a guy, but Dak Prescott, I'll say, he's an instigator, and he knew what he was doing, and that's for sure. That's football
for sure. I will say this: the Cowboys performed a lot better than I expected them to. I thought that Brian Schottenheimer had a great debut showing as the Cowboys head coach. His stock is only rising. The offense seemed put together. The running game that everyone expected to be non-existent was existing. Yep. Now, could that be because Jalen Carter was in the middle? Who knows? But they definitely looked like they were moving the football. I look at it when I look at the game. I say to myself, this Cowboys team, if they can keep it together, maybe they might be able to shock people. You need more consistency out of CeeDee Lamb. It's the reason why you gave him the contract you did. And maybe the criticism that we saw in the chat yesterday for CeeDee Lamb might have been a little bit warranted. It didn't help dispel some of those narratives. I will say from the Jalen Carter situation, it gave 𝗦𝗢𝗥𝗕𝗦𝗢𝗥 vibes a little bit like that, right? That you expect more from a professional athlete, and for a guy that came in with so many question marks out of college for obvious reasons. Won't get into them right now, but you didn't help your case in any way. The people that think that you're a piece of are probably going to feel even stronger about that. And I agree with you, Sean Brennan. I thought the Eagles secondary left a lot to be desired. They looked a little undisciplined out there, and it looked like you could take advantage of them. It looked like if they weren't able to get the pass rush going, you are able to take advantage of them. But we'll see how the Eagles look the rest of the way. Again, it's hard to win a championship, but it's even harder to repeat. So we'll see what happens there with the Philadelphia Eagles. One thing I want to talk about before we move the conversation over to our UFC talk: did we overrate Bill Belichick? Is too much being made of Bill Belichick's loss well, not even a loss. That was an absolute stomping, right? I thought he started the wrong quarterback, but I understand why he started the quarterback he did, right? Max Johnson coming off that disgusting leg injury. You don't want to rush him. But what were your thoughts, man? Do you think that the Tar Heels are going to eventually bounce back? Do you think they'll be fine, or do you think that this is indicative of what is to come?
I think they'll be fine. Like, they'll be fine, Malik, but I'm out on Bill Belichick right now. I am.
Wow.
I still think that he is valuable. I still think his legacy and his approach to the game, I feel like the team, they understand it, and I think it carries weight. But there's too much noise around him from this entire offseason about the Jordan Hudson thing to him having a documentary about his team to him banning Patriots scouts from coming to their practice.
And Broncos, apparently.
And Broncos. Like, there's just too much noise around Bill Belichick. And personally, my thought process with this was I always thought that this was a play for him to get back into the NFL. I still think he wants that record of being the winningest head coach. And I think he tried with the Falcons to get there. It didn't work out. So I think this is all a ploy to get back to the NFL. I'm out on Bill Belichick, but I think they'll be fine, but I'm out.
I'm not. Okay. I think that's a knee-jerk reaction.
Okay.
I won't say I'm out on him. I do think that starting the right quarterback, the more accurate quarterback, the better passer. Max Johnson looked like he was ready to go. Now, maybe that will be the guy that they go with for the remainder of the season. The other quarterback's name is Gio Lopez. I know he dealt with a little bit of an injury there, so I don't want to be too critical of him. But outside of that first draft, he left nothing on the football field. To me, the offense was a little too stagnant. It was a little too vanilla, if you will. It felt like a preseason game almost. And again, I do agree this is a long-term play, but not a long-term play necessarily to get back in the NFL, although it could lead to that, although I don't see it right now. I do think this is a long-term play in terms of building the program the way that he wants. It's not going to look pretty all of a sudden. You're not going to look like the New England Patriots of old. You're not going to immediately go out there and just be a team that's just running on all cylinders. I do think that the makings of this team is there, but I think it's going to come down to doing the little things well consistently. So again, we'll see what happens, but Josh Northcutt, that is actually a good point by you. He said Giants next head coach. Man, that'd be interesting. But I do think that Bill Belichick, and the North Carolina Tar Heels will start to put it together. I really do. I think TCU was overlooked going into this game. They had a lot riding on it. They had a chip on their shoulder because faced with a similar circumstances when Deion Sanders and the Colorado Buffaloes took them on. They got caught up in the hype and all that, right? And they kind of let it get away from them, if you will. And I really believe that. I think they'll be fine. I think that the Tar Heels will be fine. I think Bill Belichick is going to implement his game plan. I do think that he's going to first and foremost clean up those special teams mistakes, but I wouldn't say necessarily I'm out on him just yet. Fair. I think that they'll put it together. Even if it's not necessarily a winning season, I think you'll start to see the transition as the season goes on, that they'll look like a more disciplined football team. I believe that. I was almost remiss, and I know we got to get to our UFC talk, but I want to talk about our best bets for the Chiefs versus Chargers games. I also want to give our prediction for this game. This is a weird one. This is a weird one, man. I'm gonna go with the Chiefs because the Chargers haven't shown me the ability to beat the Chiefs just yet. They just haven't shown the consistency there at all, and I just think the Chiefs always just find a way to win. Now, again, I don't love the fact that it's in Brazil. I don't love that. I don't like the fact that a team is losing home field advantage because the league wants to expand into other territories. I don't like that. I don't think division games are the place to do that. I'll just say that right now. I think that that's just a wrong move by the National Football League. With that being said, I lean Chiefs this game. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, Chiefs won the past 8 matchups. Yeah. That's the difficult part. But Malik, I mean, you've talked about this. I'm a believer in Harbaugh. I'm a believer in what they're trying to build. I think it hurt how they lost their offensive lineman, for the entire season. But I think the divisional games are always close. Something I do love, in this game. I think this is more of a higher scoring game, especially with it, being not in somebody's home territory. It's not like you have to go into opposing territory. I think this higher scoring game, I think this is a close game. But yeah, I got to go with the Chiefs here. I think they're the more well-rounded team. But I'm curious to see how the Chargers' rushing attack looks, because I feel like they can control the ground game. They can control the game.
I do have some interesting conversation. I have some interesting things that I'm looking out for this game.
Yeah.
I want to know is Travis Kelce still him. I want to know if he can still be that guy for this Chiefs offense, because we know when he's running on all cylinders, the Chiefs look like a well-oiled machine. And I thought that they were missing that element last season. You know, he gave an interesting point. Somebody asked him, was he going to be retiring this season? And he pretty much just said his body feels good. He's going to enjoy this ride. I think that this is pretty much his last season in the NFL. But I want to get to some of our favorite bets for this game. I can tell you guys right now, I am so excited that this prop is back. I'm so excited that this prop is back. And Marissa, if we can get this up as well. I love Isaiah Pacheco over 1.5 receptions. I love Isaiah Pacheco over 1.5 receptions. And I'm going back to old reliable. Pat Mahomes to have 2 passing touchdowns. That used to be like stealing candy for me last year. It was a little weird. He had a lot of games where he didn't do that, and it was just strange. But I think he gets back to that. We know he used his legs a lot last year. A sneaky play that I really, really like. I don't know if Marissa's going to give me a little bit of crap for this, but I kind of liked Noah Gray over 2.5 receptions. There's a tight end whisperer. I kind of like that, man. I kind of like Noah Gray over 2.5 receptions. But I'll tell you what I really like is the tight end whisperer. Will Dissly over 1.5 receptions. Listen, I think Justin Herbert is going to target his tight ends, and I think that he is going to give Will Dissly an opportunity. I also think that Keenan Allen's line is a little too low. 3.5 receptions. We do know he's a volume guy. Listen, I kind of like it though, man. Those are some of my favorite plays for the game. I haven't settled on a touchdown score just yet, but what I will tell you guys is so far my tight end whisperer picks have smashed. So if you're looking to make yourself some money, make sure you subscribe to the Patreon or to the website where you'll get all of our plays. And our team does a lot of great work. Daniel?
Yeah, Malik. I mean, I got to play like I absolutely hammered is Keenan Allen, right? Keenan Allen is a 12-year veteran in the NFL. He is back on the team, and you have wide receivers like Quentin Johnston, who's fine, Trey Harris, who's a rookie. Keenan Allen, he played in the one preseason game. He played every single passing snap that he was available for. He's going to be on the field. He has a rapport with Justin Herbert, and in their last season together, he cashed this prop in 12 of 13 games. Over 38.5 receiving yards. That's like taking candy from a kid, Malik. That is extremely easy. I love Keenan Allen. I think he gets 50+ receiving yards. And one little sprinkle I got for you, Malik, I think Kareem Hunt scores a touchdown today. And this is my sneaky prop. I'm also going to take him to score the first touchdown, because when I saw them in the preseason, Isaiah Pacheco gets the majority of the work. He is their running back 1. But when it gets to the goal line, Kareem Hunt was the guy that got the snaps. And I think that we see the Chiefs drive down the field early. I think we see them on the 3-yard line. I think Kareem Hunt punches it in. First touchdown's plus 2,000, and him to score a touchdown is plus 350. So I like those two.
Man, you getting Kareem Hunt to score a touchdown at plus 350?
Or maybe it was plus 300.
But even plus 300, plus 3, that's still very, very good odds, especially considering his usage down in the red zone and how that could be a thing. But don't sleep on Isaiah Pacheco's emergence back in this offense. He dealt with a little bit of an injury. He was getting himself healthy down the stretch. I think Isaiah Pacheco is going to remind the league that he's still a force. I still believe he's a force. And that's why I love his reception prop being at 1.5, because they stopped utilizing him down the stretch in that regard, right? But I think that when he was healthy, correct me if I'm wrong, Isaiah Pacheco was heavily used in the passing game. And I think that those little checkdowns to, especially if you don't have that rapport with your receivers down the field just yet, or guys are struggling to get open, Isaiah Pacheco is definitely a weapon that you definitely want to take advantage of. So Isaiah Pacheco over 1.5 receptions is a play that I'm running with. I got Chiefs money line. I think Chiefs take this, and that's what I got. Again, hope that you guys subscribe to the Patreon or even the website to get all of our full plays. We'll have everything locked in today to get you guys excited for Brazil football, right? And we're not talking soccer. Listen, UFC Paris is taking place this week. It's a huge fight. Caio Borralho taking on Nassourdine Imavov. Huge fight. As you guys know, I'm also the UFC Whisperer. This is what we do. We'll have all our plays up on the Patreon. I want to bring in for the first time on the show, TWSN lead MMA analyst, Evan Theoharis. What's going on, my man?
How you doing, Malik?
I'm good, brother. It was a long wait for you back there. It was a long wait for you
Yeah.
back there, but I appreciate you for hanging out with us, man, and taking the time. Listen, huge fight taking place in the middleweight division to determine possibly the next contender for Khamzat Chimaev's championship. Listen, I want to run through some of these fights with you, Evan, but I think we should start off. Well, first and foremost, I'm kind of sick, man. Patricio Pitbull fight is off.
Really?
I was looking forward to that fight. His opponent missed weight, 3 pounds. Patricio says he's at a point of his career where he's not going to basically give his opponent any advantage. That's something that I understand. It was a fight I was looking forward to. You want to know why I was looking forward to, Daniel? Because Patricio Pitbull was an underdog. Evan, Patricio Pitbull was an underdog, and I was 100% going to take the side of Patricio Pitbull because I think Patricio was going to take his opponent down. If not, lay and pray he was going to submit him. That's what I thought was going to happen in that fight. But is there any fight on this card, maybe underrated, that you're looking forward to the most, Evan? And what is your lean? Give me some of your favorite props for that said fight.
I think the Patricio Pitbull fight was supposed to be the main card opener, but I think now it's Axel Sola versus 𝗫𝗏. I am all in on Axel Sola in this fight. I think the money line at right around -140 is probably the best bet there, but even if you can get him at a finish, that's good too. I just really don't think 𝗫𝗏 is a UFC level fighter. And Axel Sola, he's undefeated. I think he has a draw on his record, but other than that, he's undefeated. He's more versatile on the feet. I think he's faster than 𝗫𝗏. I think he's has the more powerful shots than 𝗫𝗏, but he's also the one who could take this to the ground. He does really good work in top control, especially damaging work. He's got 2 TKO finishes in his last 4 fights by ground and pound. I think this could just be way too overwhelming for 𝗫𝗏. I think Axel Sola at -140 might be my bet of the night.
Man, while you're talking about that fight, I'm going to tell you the fight that I think should actually be the main event if it was up to me personally, and that's Mauricio Rufy taking on Benoit Saint-Denis. Listen, I understand the hype with Mauricio, and it is deserved, but I think people are sleeping on Benoit Saint-Denis in this fight. Yeah. Benoit Saint-Denis is an absolute force. Now, the one thing I'll say about Mauricio Rufy is he has this ability to just, he has so many weapons. He has the ability to kick you, break you down over time, and that's something we can see with Benoit Saint-Denis. But if the destroyer is still the guy that I think he is, and I think everybody is a little low on him. But what happens if he drags Mauricio Rufy into deep waters? What happens if he takes Mauricio Rufy down? Because I think that we all can possibly agree the better overall mixed martial artist might be Benoit Saint-Denis. I think. I'm not sure. We just have not seen Rufy really tested on the ground in the UFC. We haven't seen that just yet. But I do think that's an element of the game that if Benoit Saint-Denis wants to win, I think he could take him to the ground. I do think he has this ability to power through whatever his opponent's bringing at him. It didn't look good, obviously, in the fight. What was his name? Against Moicano. It didn't look good against Dustin Poirier, but he had some moments in the Dustin Poirier fight where he was getting the better of
he won round 1.
Dustin Poirier. Oh, yeah, he won round 1. So, like, for me, I think this fight could go a lot of different ways. I'll know very quickly who's going to win this fight. But I do think that there needs to be more respect shown to Benoit Saint-Denis, especially considering this fight is taking place in Paris, right? And this is like, he's going to want to win this. He's going to want to put his best foot forward in front of his home, his people, his home country. So, like, I don't know. What are your thoughts on that fight?
I personally do have Mauricio Rufy winning this fight, but I do think that the odds should be closer to like a -130, +110, a lot like what we're seeing in the main event. I think the problem with Saint-Denis, I think all the skills are there for him. He's got a great wrestling background. He's got clearly has power in his hands, but his fight IQ, especially in these last few fights, has been very alarming for me. And I think he's fallen a bit in love with the adrenaline aspect of the sport. And you mentioned earlier how he's going to want to go out and win in front of Paris. And I absolutely think that's the case, but I think he's going to want to win in style. And the problem with that is he just doesn't have very good striking defense. I mean, in his last fight against Kyle Prepolek, he got tagged a couple times. It was overall a dominant performance, but getting hit by 𝗙𝗪𝗏𝗡 and getting hit by Mauricio Rufy are two very different things.
Two different things.
I think Mauricio Rufy is just an assassin on the feet. At this point, I believe he has 100% takedown defense, but he hasn't fought a wrestler like 𝗦𝗡𝗢𝗓𝗏.
Yeah. You know me, I've always got to add that devil's advocate.
Yeah.
I've always got to. That being said, there's a prop that I really like in this fight, Evan. And you know me, I hate giving out any of my UFC bets. But I will. I think Mauricio Rufy wins this one by knockout.
That was my best bet for this fight.
Yeah, I think he wins this fight by knockout. Yeah. I do.
However,
if there is a path. Sorry, what were you saying?
I said I think it's right around plus 115. I think that's what I had.
It's at plus 120 right now. Yeah, if there is a path to victory for 𝗦𝗡𝗢𝗓𝗏, the ability to get this fight to the ground, that is his path to victory. But if he's not able to find that takedown, which I don't think he will be able to. How I envision this fight happening, if I'm looking into my horoscope, I've literally predicted the outcome of fights before. This is how I expect this fight to happen. I think that Mauricio Rufy is going to be finding the chin, going to be breaking him down. I think that 𝗦𝗡𝗢𝗓𝗏 is going to try to find that takedown. It's not going to be there. He's going to gas himself. He's going to keep trying to shoot these desperate takedowns, get tired, and I think he gets finished alongside the octagon. That's how I see this fight happening. I really think that. I think that Mauricio Rufy is a guy that is on the up and up, and the fighting nerds definitely have an absolute dog in him. I think they call him the Brazilian Conor McGregor. Don't they call him that or something like that? So I don't know. Another sneaky good fight on this card, man. We got to talk about Modestas Bukauskas taking on Paul Craig. Paul Craig is the underdog here. I understand why, but doesn't this seem like a fight where Paul Craig could find the submission?
Yeah, I think I have Modestas Bukauskas winning this fight, but I'm not super high on Modestas Bukauskas as a fighter. Mm-hmm. The reason I have Bukauskas in this fight is he's not one that typically will look to initiate grappling exchanges in any regard. He's very much a point striker. And I think that's the reason. I think he's got the athletic advantage at this point in his career against Paul Craig. Yes. He's sitting at minus 330, which I do think is a little high just because I don't know if Bukauskas should really be a minus 330 favorite in any fight at the UFC level. But I really do like this to go over 1.5 rounds at minus 140. And then if you want to do a sprinkle play on this, I like Modestas Bukauskas by decision at plus 310. I think Paul Craig is probably going to try and fight this as safe as possible, knowing that he's got, he's gotten rocked in the past if he tries to get into, wild striking exchanges. I think he'll look to probably pull guard a lot in this fight. And I think this could just be a kind of ugly decision for Modestas Bukauskas, but over 1.5 at minus 140 and Modestas by points at plus 310, I think are pretty good bets for this fight.
Daniel, what are your thoughts on this fight?
Yeah, man, this is one I'm excited for. I think Paul has always been a weird one, but it's not like he's lost to Bo Nickal. He's lost to some very quality opponents in his last fight. I think it was it
wound up being a draw.
But he was doing good.
Yeah.
There's value for me on a finish from Paul Craig for plus 400. And I think if anything I'm taking in this fight is probably that, because like you said, the other side is far too much juice. I'm not going to eat that. But you look at every one of his wins. He ever won by decision? I don't think so. Paul Craig, every single fight has been a finish. If there's value, I think it's plus 400 Paul Craig to finish this fight. But besides that, I'm probably just going to sit back and watch this.
I don't love Paul Craig moving back and forth between divisions. I understand why he moved back up to light heavyweight. I just feel like fighting a point style fight against a Paul Craig is inviting him to initiate the takedown. And it's the longer this fight goes on, the more danger it is if you're not actually putting some substance on those punches. And I feel like unless Modestas Bukauskas gets respect early in that fight, I feel like this is a spot in which Paul Craig can just finally just power through, somehow initiate the grappling and get us up here. I'm feeling Paul Craig here, man.
Yeah, I'm with you. Like the thing that is weird, and obviously you can't do MMA math, I understand, but the guys he's lost to, Bo Nickel, Kyle Barallo, Brendan Allen, Johnny Walker,
elite guys.
those guys are all better than who he's fighting tomorrow night.
Yeah.
All better.
Yeah. We also got to remember, I know some people might see it as a fluke. He's the only guy to beat 𝗦𝗣𝗢𝗪𝗏, via submission last second after he was getting beat up the entire fight.
Beat Jamal Hill.
He beat Jamal Hill. Listen, I'm taking Paul Craig in this fight, guys.
Plus 400 to get finished.
On FanDuel, if you want to bet FanDuel, I know I don't like to give any shout out to sports books, but plus 500. Him to win this fight by submission is plus 500 on FanDuel. So for me, I feel like that's worth a sprinkle. Before we, obviously end the show, I think another fight that's very interesting to me is 𝗏𝗏 𝗏𝗏 taking on Sam Hughes. 𝗏𝗏 𝗏𝗏 is a huge underdog in this fight, Evan. Huge underdog. I'm talking about plus 290. Sam Hughes should be able to take this fight to the ground and do what she wants, but I'm not going to lie and act as if 𝗏𝗏 𝗏𝗏 isn't talented. Here's one issue I have with 𝗏𝗏 𝗏𝗏. I feel like the gaps in her game are things that you want to see her close. And she's a little bit older fighter now. You don't want. I didn't love the fact that the glass girl she fought just kept basically spamming kicks to her over and over and over again, and it almost seemed like 𝗏𝗏 was I felt like she was scared to engage with her to a degree. Sam Hughes is a girl that understands in order to get in, she's going to have to take a couple shots, and she's willing to take those shots. She could steamroll her here. She really could steamroll her here. Is there any take you have on this fight or any lean you have on this fight, Evan?
I think that Sam Hughes is rightfully a sizable favorite in this one. But the one thing that is interesting to me about 𝗏𝗏 𝗏𝗏 in this is just I do think that she is the far superior athlete in this fight, which I think always comes into play in mixed martial arts. She fights with a very weird style. She's a kick first striker that just leads with her feet the whole time, which I'm not sure if that's going to benefit her against Sam Hughes, who's going to probably be looking to get this fight either against the fence or just on the mat in general. I do know Bannon has decent skills off her back. I mean, she won her last fight by armbar, but I think the smarter bet is Sam Hughes, but I do think that there's value on 𝗏𝗏 𝗏𝗏 at close to plus 300. Listen,
we're going to do a quick speed round before we get to the main event. Really quickly, I just want to do this. A fight that I think
there's a good one I like.
𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 taking on Andreas Gustafsson. Listen, I think that this is a fight where Andreas could win. I hate his fighting style. It's kill or be killed. But Rinat has shown that he doesn't necessarily keep up the same pace and pressure as the fight goes on. He has shown the ability to be able to go out there, and when the going gets tough in a dog fight that Andreas is going to make it, that he's able to Andreas is able to just outlast his opponents out there. Really quickly, what are your thoughts, Evan, on this fight?
I do like Rinat as a slight underdog in this one. I definitely think that Gustafsson is going to make this a dog fight eventually, but watching the Gustafsson, his debut fight, it's just hard for me to get behind him right now with the style that I've seen him fight in. I think Rinat is definitely a just outside the top 15 kind of fighter in the UFC.
Agreed.
And I think with Gustafsson's style, I'm just not sure that's where he's going to end up. The problem with Rinat, and I think that's why the odds are what they are, is that he fades late. He fades in the third round pretty hard. It just depends on how far ahead he is. I think if Andreas can get off to a fast start and still be there in round 3, he's got a good chance at winning this. But I think if Rinat's smart, his technical skills are what's going to carry him to a round 1 and round 2 victory. And as long as he can hang on in that third round, I think he should be able to get a decision. But I'm really excited about this fight.
Man, I think if he's still in that third round, we gotta sprinkle a little bit on Andreas.
A live bet, yeah.
I'm going to be live betting this fight. I can tell you that right now because I do not think Rinat's going to find the finish early. I don't think he wants it. As much as I think that should be the game plan, I don't know. I don't feel like he will. Last thing before we let you get out of here, man. Let's talk about the main event. Kyle Barallo taking on 𝗏𝗏 𝗏𝗏, #1 contendership for the middleweight championship. I'll tell you right now, I've got 𝗏𝗏 𝗏𝗏. I just think he's going to find the chin of Kyle Barallo over and over and over again. He might even get a finish here, but I just don't love the defense of Kyle Barallo and his ability, his love of standing up with guys. I saw his fight after his face after the 𝗪𝗓𝗓𝗏𝗪 fight. Listen, I really do believe this is a spot in which he Nasruddin Imavov could shine. What are your thoughts?
Now, I know my record against you when we go head to head in main events isn't great, but I do have 𝗦𝗢𝗪𝗖𝗡 in this fight. I think that 𝗦𝗢𝗪𝗖𝗡 has the necessary skill set to at least make this a really tough fight with Nasruddin Imavov. The problem I see with Imavov, I know he's got the number is at 78% on his takedown defense, but I don't think he's fought a grappler as good as 𝗦𝗢𝗪𝗖𝗡. I think 𝗦𝗢𝗪𝗖𝗡 is just probably second to 𝗕𝗏𝗟𝗏 Chimaev in terms of middleweight grapplers. I think that I mean, the one number when I was doing my research for this fight, and I know it was a few years ago now, but Nasruddin Imavov's loss to Phil Hawes was really bad.
Yeah, it was really bad.
He got taken down 4 times by Phil Hawes and controlled for about, I think, 11 minutes in that fight. Now, I'm sure that Nasruddin Imavov has improved in that time, but it's tough for me to look past that when 𝗦𝗢𝗪 is undefeated in the UFC. He's been a dominant grappler, and he's not just a one-dimensional grappler. He's a good striker, not as good of a striker as Nasruddin Imavov, but he can definitely make him work on the feet and not just focus on stopping takedowns. So I think the variety of 𝗦𝗢𝗪 is going to make this a little bit easier for him to get the fight on the mat. And I think when he has him there, it's going to be tough for Imavov to get up. And I think if 𝗦𝗢𝗪 does find himself on his back, I think he's a lot more likely to find his way back into a dominant position.
I'm happy you said that, and I'm happy we're going head to head on this, brother, because this is the start of something beautiful. It's going to be the start of many of us, are back and forths here. But I just think Nasruddin Imavov's being overlooked here. I do. I think that what you said is, 𝗦𝗪𝗪𝗖𝗡 is going to make him work. I don't think Nasruddin Imavov has a problem with working. I think Nasruddin Imavov is going to put the jab on him. I just saw so many openings in the Jared Cannonier fight, and I think if he didn't hurt Jared Cannonier, I think the fight would have played out a little bit differently. I could have seen Jared Cannonier walk away with that because I just don't think 𝗦𝗪𝗪𝗖𝗡 was clean on the feet, to be honest with you. And I think that he leaves a lot of openings. I think Nasruddin is very clean. And not only that, I don't think he's fought the type of striker, the technical striker of a Nasruddin Imavov. I think Nasruddin Imavov beats 𝗦𝗪𝗪𝗖𝗡 here, guys. I really believe that. I think he beats him in Paris, and I think he makes a huge statement. And I think the next fight for the championship is Nasruddin Imavov versus 𝗕𝗏𝗟𝗏 Chimaev. But I've got Nasruddin in this fight. I just think that he's way too clean. Kyle will build back up, and he will be a contender for the middleweight championship at some point. But I think this is the guy that's going to thwart his rise to championship status, as unfortunate as that is. Daniel, what are your thoughts before we head out of here?
Yeah, I've been a huge fan of 𝗦𝗢𝗪𝗖𝗡, but for me, I'm taking Imavov in this fight for 2 reasons. Number one, when I rewatched that Brendan Allen fight, I think that showed me a lot. That was Allen was 1 of 8, 1 of 9, maybe 1 of 10 on his takedowns. And obviously, I'm not comparing the 2 fighters, but I feel like that's going to have to be the game plan. And I really value Imavov's win against Adesanya. And I think there's something to be said about a fighter coming in with confidence. And I'm sure Kyle Brallo is confident because he's undefeated. But Imavov coming off of that fight against Adesanya, you look at his record, the Chris Curtis fight, I'm in on Imavov, and I do think that his power, he's the cleaner striker. I'm going to take the hometown guy, and I'm taking Imavov in this fight.
I agree, man. Well, listen, it's going to be great, man. Evan and me, we like to text each other throughout the card. I'm looking forward to it. Evan, I want to thank you so much for joining us, man. This will be the first of many. Evan will be joining us regularly to talk UFC through. I know him and I were talking about doing this for quite some time. Make sure you guys follow him. Again, he is our lead MMA analyst here at TWSN. Follow him over on Twitter at Evan Theoharis. We have over 1.1 thousand people watching us on Twitter right now live. And we greatly appreciate you guys so much. Again, the morning show is live every Monday, every Monday, Thursday, and Friday at 10:30 a.m. as we talk about the latest news in all of sports and we break it all down for you. Evan, thank you so much for joining us, brother. I look forward to our friendly banter tomorrow via text, man, and hope you enjoy the rest of your Friday.
Have a great day, guys.
Yes, sir, man. Again, thank you guys so much for tuning in to another episode of the Sit Down Morning Show with Malik Wright, presented by TWSN. We greatly appreciate you guys. Remember, there's only one way you should be waking up, watching sports, listening to sports, and joining in on the conversation, and that is the right way. I'll be live again Sunday after the Bengals game as I do my post-game recap show. I look forward to being there with you guys. I'm excited to be back going live multiple times a week. We look forward to seeing you guys next time on the morning show, which will be Monday at 10:30 a.m. Eastern time. And as always, we'll see you next time.
This is TWSN. You ain't heard about us yet.